welcome to this program, The Bible Journey. Thank you very much for joining us on our study today. And today we'll be looking at the book of Exodus, chapter 33. With me on set to help me in this analysis are our dear pastors. First of all is Pastor Peter Nyagah. Welcome, Pastor, to our discussion.
Thank you so much, Ratemo.
And we also have Pastor Dan Abuya. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you.
And we also have on my right-hand side, that is Pastor Kabira Kabira.
Appreciate.
Well, as we begin, let's have a word of prayer. Mighty and everlasting Father, thank you for your love and care to this moment. We thank you for this time that we should study and serve from your word. We pray that you may teach us. Your Holy Spirit may be with us from the beginning to the end. Be with our viewer, even as they follow through, oh God. In Jesus' mighty name we pray.
Amen.
Amen. Now, my dear pastors, in chapter 32, we really saw a lot concerning the gold calf and the rebellion of the children of Israel, and how they went back into the worship of idols, and of course what happened thereafter. But maybe in a way of recapping on the same, I would just want us to bring us back shortly, if we can just comment briefly on what happened later, especially from verse 29. Of course, Pastor Kabira just in a way tried to summarize what is happening, helping us to see the flow of events there. But especially touching on verse 29, 30, and 34, I thought there is quite much that we need. Maybe if we can just do it quickly in 1.5 minutes each, it would really do justice to that closing bit of Exodus chapter 32. So let me start with Pastor Kabira.
I don't know where to go to, but I will talk about maybe 34. Now therefore go lead the people to the place of which I have spoken to you. Behold, my angel shall go before you. Nevertheless, in the day when I visit for punishment, I will visit punishment upon them for their sin. After they have angered God, after they have sinned, after God has punished them, after God has promised punishment upon them, there is a plague that comes. He finishes by saying, I will send an angel before you. It is that concept now that we will get in verse 33, if I can be able to put it.
Pastor Dan.
I remember what is happening in verse 29, particularly at your request. This address is directed to the Levites, specifically. Verse 30 now, Moses now turns to the rest of the congregation. But verse 29, this results from verse 28. So the sons of Levi did according to the word of Moses, and about 3,000 men of the people fell that day. Then Moses said, consecrate yourselves today to the Lord, that he may bestow on you a blessing this day. For every man has opposed his son and his brother. This brethren, remember that episode when we discussed it. They did not hesitate to put their sword against anybody who had, rebelled by remaining not on the side of the Lord. It didn't matter whether they were blood relations. That's why he's saying a father, a brother, it went down. And you remember later on the prophet, I don't know which verse, pastors, that warns about being lax in God's work. I think it's Isaiah somewhere, do not be lax. So actually, this is the background, that they were not afraid. And even Christ says that I bring a sword, a sword against your brother, your sister, your parents here. So out of this later on, we find the Levites later on. This is how it develops from here, where they are bestowed, priesthood is bestowed upon them. Right, and because of this act that they took without fear or favor. Right.
Pastor Nyagah.
Yeah, I will just talk about verse number 34 as I join with chapter 33. So that you can go straight on chapter 33. Now therefore, go lead the people to the place of which I have spoken to you. Behold, my angel shall go before you. Nevertheless, in the day when I visit for punishment, I will visit punishment upon them in their sin. Moses has succeeded pleading with God. God had had of change of his heart. But, again, at his own terms.
he was going with them. But now, he wants to give an angel to go with them.
Mhm.
And that is the reason why chapter 33 is very, very important. So when you get to chapter 33, we see that the Israelites are now uncomfortable with an angel going with them.
Mm.
Because it's God who was going with them. You know, the form of the pillar, the cloud, and the night and the day. So that was the presence of Yahweh.
Mhm.
But now here God has said, okay, I reconsider my thoughts. I'm not destroying you, but I'm not going with you. So what I'm going to do, I will ask one of my angels.
Mm.
So actually, they felt, and you know, chapter 33, it begins with that, you know, an expression of these members' feelings, that God has now lowered them. As He has lowered them, is like, you know, church members, or maybe in a school. In a school, the children come to report issues to the principal, but the principal does not decides to delegate that assignment to a prefect, class prefect. You know, you went to the principal, you knew these things will be done. Then he tells you, no, okay, go to talk to the class prefect. You feel, really? So that's what I see happening here.
And now, you know, okay, as now we move to 33, chapter
Yes,
33.
Yes.
Because they have been here for quite some time. I don't know, what was the duration? Do we have a kind of duration? How many months? Or
Oh, well,
because of
this
course
is,
we know he was up in the mountain 40 days and nights, at least
yeah,
1 month and some
a
10
few
days.
weeks there. So this almost now coming to half a year since they left Egypt, because we know that they got to this point. It was about 3 months up to the base here, and then there are a few things happening, you know, here and there. So we know that it's not yet a full year. Yeah.
And of course, our viewer can also guess, you know, the experience was quite good up on the mountain, and things have been very okay, you know, up here. All of a sudden, things have just lowered until our voices, I can feel, they are low, and the pastor is saying that now, okay, I'll just send an angel. He will go with you. But anyway, let's psych up for the same. In 33.
Well, you see verse 2, chapter 33, verse 2, it says, I will send my angel before you, and I will drive out the Canaanites, and the Amorite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite. Go up to a land flowing. This is a response to Moses' prayer, remember? Yes. Verse 15, right? Verse 13 to 15 of chapter 32, where he's reminding, he's purporting, he's reminding God the promise to Abraham.
And you know, it's just as a result of that God is re-echoing the same, because of course there was a covenant he made with Abraham, and he said, I'll do all these things. Now he says in verse 1, then the Lord said to Moses, depart and go up from here, you and the people whom you have brought out of the land of Egypt. And you know, it's still the same wording. The people you brought out of Egypt, you know, is not now, like, it's not me, but okay, still I know he's with them. You and the people whom you have brought out of the land of Egypt, to the land which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, to your descendants I'll give it. So, you know, he's still confined by that covenant, and he still has to keep it because God holds it. You know, it's very important to him. So he says, of course, I'll be with you, and what Pastor said there, he will drive out all the Canaanites of that out of that land, and they shall inherit it. Maybe now, you know, this is now a command to leave Sinai. So they have been here for quite some time. Now it's time to depart from here and move forward, because I think what he wanted them to learn, I think, has come to an end. They have learned to some extent, and it's time that they move forward. It was important they be here for some time.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You know, as you said, you know, our voices are low because it's a low moment.
It's very low.
It's a low moment. You see, Ratemo's sin has consequences. Whatever you do, sin has consequences. God will forgive, but he can't do anything with consequences. They will last. So their sin has cost them. You see, the verse which Pastor read, which didn't complete, verse number 3, he said, "Go up to the land flowing with milk and honey, for I will not go up in your midst, lest I consume you on the way, for you are a stiff-necked people." So God says, we thank God, of course. We thank him that, anyway, he didn't forget about the promise of Canaan. Said, for the sake of, I do know, Moses reminded him of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And perhaps for the sake of that covenant, you go. But I'm so tired with you. I'm so mad with you. In fact, next time if I take even a single step with you, I will just destroy you. I'm only ni Musa tu amenipembeleza. So musinisukume.
Okay.
And so verse 4, you know, verse 4 is very, verse 4 says that when the people heard this bad news, it was indeed bad news. It was
I don't know, maybe for me I feel like these people are nice. These people are nice. These people are...
How, Pastor?
You know, God has looked at the... Nimalize ya watu ama niwache. But these people, maybe they can be nice. Maybe one day they will be nice. You know, the grace of God still being so much, God's love being so much, it's still pushing you. You know, in the world we live today, if somebody promised me what God promised this one, many of us will take. You know that? If God said, I will send my angel before you, that's not a bad thing. It does indeed say he will provide an angel that you'll not even be able to stumble on your feet. You think like, I have an angel before me. That is nice. Then he says, I'll drive out the Canaanites. You'll no longer, Pastor Dan, have enemies. You'll not have competitors. You'll not have anybody doing something bad to you. That's a nice thing, honestly speaking. That's a nice thing.
Nice.
And then he says, go up to a land flowing with milk and honey. I will provide for you that you'll have a lot. That's a nice thing. You know, that's completely a nice thing. But then he says, I will not go up in your ministry. Then he destroys the entire center. You know, nice. Then he just says, I will not go with you. And I'm like,
I think what Pastor is trying to do is just to, you know, like he would encourage a person, usijali.
No, usijali, you know.
You know, okay, but anyway, look at verse 5, for example.
This is serious. You know why I'm saying this is serious?
It's very serious.
The Israelites, in their condition per se, this is all they wanted. What were they complaining about? They were complaining about the same thing. They just wanted a leadership that is not so hard on them. That's why they're telling Moses and they're telling Aaron, you know, Moses has been up there, so maybe if we give you angel, I think you're sorted. Because after all, you just want a visible thing. Then number 2, they need enemies. They just don't need enemies. They want to win without fighting. So that is sorted. We've removed. So you basically just go straight. There will be no wars for you. And then number 3, you guys want food without working hard for it. That's why they're asking for man. So everything is sorted.
Pastor, have you ever asked for something, you keep on complaining for this, and this, and then it comes so easy, and then you feel, oh, no, I think that's not good. Because verse 4.
But I wish you would listen, because really, you know, the whole essence is this, in the point Pastor is trying to make, really. Because ultimately, you are going to ask yourself, why aren't they taking this deal?
Yes, because it looks good. It's a good deal.
It's a good deal, actually. It's a good deal, unless you really have reflected. And I think these guys have reflected. It's obvious, because I'm surprised, actually, that this is bad news to them. This would have been, cool.
Finally, what we wanted.
Finally. But I think
they have
some growth.
They have come to their mind and realized that, hey, no,
there is some
growth. No, I think when God told them, I will not go with you, they had taken it for granted. Like many of us, we take God for granted. You know, like you wake up in the morning, we sing the kid song, I wake up in the morning, I wash my face, I brush my, you know, you do that song, and for you it's granted. You say, I was woken up by the alarm. You take it for granted that I came back to sleep. You take for granted everything, the money you have, like the Israel. But when God said, I will not be with you, that is when they counted the cost. It shocked them to the core. That's why they thought, wait a minute. This is not good. It cannot be good at all.
And in verse 5, as Pastor comes in, for the Lord had said to Moses, say to the children of Israel, you are a stiff-necked people. I could come up into your midst in one moment and consume you. Now, therefore, take off your ornaments, that I may know what to do to you.
Before you come to ornaments, it's not enough to have the angel with you.
I think
you see, there's a very strong point. We are not saved by angels. Imagine heaven with all angels without God.
To
Would
not
you say
be
you're in
heaven.
heaven?
No.
I mean, we are not excited to go to see angels. We want to go to heaven to see God, though. I mean, we want to see God and stay with Him.
Right.
So a life with the angels without God is an empty life.
Exactly. And thanks, Pastor, for making that point. You know, this is why, this is the most critical thing here. Even heaven. You know, people think that you're going to heaven because of
It's
the
nice things, because of the
nice
things that are being
things
provided here.
and, I mean,
It's land
all
of milk and honey.
honey and gold and all that. But really, if God is not in heaven,
It's not worth it.
it's not worth it. So it's not about the good things. And I think for a moment,
That answers the question why it's bad news.
It is
exactly,
bad.
for a
Do you
moment,
know
these
it?
guys have
They know
realized
it. They know
what
it.
the real
They know
deal
it.
is. What the whole point is about. It is the presence of God
That
with
really
us.
You
But
know what
they-
they're asking?
in our midst.
They're asking, what is Canaan if God is not in it?
That's right.
What is milk and honey if God is not
Exactly.
in it?
Right.
What is conquest if God is not in it?
Right.
I mean, our life is nothing without God. And that echoes what Jesus said. Without me, you can do nothing.
Do you know, for me, I feel like they had gotten to a point where they said, God had said, if I go in your midst, I will consume you on the way. But they said they would rather have that.
That's right. Yeah.
They would rather die, but with God.
With God.
That's
They would
right.
rather die in God's side than live with all these other things.
Exactly. Right here.
So what will benefit a man?
If he gains the whole world,
That's the concept.
You know, these are the moments we call eureka
Yes.
moments.
Like finally.
Wow. Like light
flashback.
flashed finally, you know, in their minds that this is it.
I'm looking at how we have
Right.
started, and I'm looking at us and thinking, it's how was it the experience of the children of Israel? If us, we are not in that situation, we are just reading and looking at it, and not every word has been written about what was, the mood. If we are feeling it this way,
But
how was it for
crises
them?
have potentials of creating this, and sometimes in our lives, you know, sometimes you need a crisis
Yeah.
moments. There are times your life goes on autopilot, and you need something to shake you.
Shock you up.
When they see God about to plot them out, when they see Moses saying, okay, you know what, God, plot me out and preserve them, all this drama, I think it's a moment of reflection.
And then Moses decides to move ahead. In verse 7, it says, Moses took his tent and pitched it outside the camp, far from the camp, and called it the tabernacle of meeting. And it came to pass that everyone who sought the Lord went out to the tabernacle of meeting, which was outside the camp. So it was, whenever Moses went out to the tabernacle, that all people rose, and each man stood at his tent door and watched Moses until he had gone into the tabernacle. And it came to pass, when Moses entered the tabernacle, that the pillar of cloud descended and stood at the door of the tabernacle, and the Lord talked with Moses.
Can I just, before you talk about that, ornaments?
Okay, that's what
Okay,
I was
Okay, I
wondering
know
why.
there is an ornament, and I don't want to be hard,
Yeah.
but look at what God says. Now, therefore, take off your ornaments, that I may know what to do with you. I know you may have said you're willing to die, but I don't think I am ready yet to talk with you. Number one, you still have the things which remind me of what you are doing. You know, they had to remove their ornaments. That is what was made into the gold calf. So some still have the gold in them. They have the ornaments that are reflecting. They still have, they are willingly saying we want to die for God. But at the same time, they still have got the same ornaments. That's why they said, and when the people heard this bad news, they mourned and no one put on his ornaments. Apparently, they used to put on ornaments for the sake of, you know, after all, I'm in control of what I want. I can do what I want. After all, it's what. So if they need to recreate a god, a small god, they just put things together and that. So for me, I feel, I know, because I've seen also Pastor Nyagah wants to contribute about, let me just cut my story short by saying, ornaments bring a different perspective of you. When God says, remove ornaments, that I may know what to do with you, it's because you are still not yet, your words may be,
You're not you. With
you're not you yet. You still, I always ask a few friends of mine, when you've put these ornaments, are you saying I am beautiful, or are you saying I want to be beautiful? Which one are you saying? You know, it's like you're editing yourself. And God says, I don't even know you people. I don't even know. So first, remove this so that I may know, am I dealing with you yet still as you? Anyway.
Thank you, Pastor John, for bringing all that. Maybe I will summarize your thoughts with the text in the book of Hebrew. chapter 12, verse 1. Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witness, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us. And let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Amen. To me, this is exactly what God is saying. You see, of course, you don't have to debate about ornaments. But God is saying you're having grafted life. This is not real. This is not what I made you. And God says you have a potential of doing the same thing again if you don't remove the things that easily ensnares you. And you see, sin is not only about repenting, but actually is taking a deliberate action to run away from that which leads you into sin.
We have seen this before, Pastor, when Jacob, is about to meet the brother Esau. We did this in Genesis.
Yes.
And he has to worship and plead with God. So he told all his team, remove your ornaments, and all the gods and the ornaments, so that we can now worship God. Maybe he will hear us, and come down in our favor.
Wow. I think what the pastors are saying here is remove the ornaments. They are not saying
so that the Lord
straight,
may know what to do with
but
you.
it's remove. It's a serious issue. Remove the ornaments.
Maybe we bring a show on ornaments another day.
And
we'll let them appreciate.
But Isaiah and Jeremiah also they tell us the real meaning of all this when they talk. The ornaments bring a certain kind of self-sufficiency.
Yes.
So when God says that, the haughty daughters of Jerusalem, I will strip off your ornaments, your bowders, I will remove them out, your bangles, so that you remain bare, and your wigs, I will chuck them off, so that now you really know your true condition. Because what the ornaments do, they deceive you. You are a pseudo you. So you are not, you give an impression of you are full, but you are naked.
Really, and now, pastors, I can, this mood here, even in verse 7, what I just read, did I read up to 9?
Yes.
Yeah. I can see the people, Moses pitches a tent outside, and he's still mad, but he's just quiet.
They are more serious.
It's a serious time. And then you can see, they had camped. I don't know how they structured in such a way that they are 3 this side, 3 this side at this time.
They were, the tabernacle comes later, but still, even here, we can have reason to believe that
They
were
orderly.
orderly.
So Moses pitches out there, and what it says here, I can see that mood. If you read, you can see the mood and appreciate that when Moses comes out, they all stand at the doors of their tents and watch Moses as he walks. And
a crazy man doing his own things up there.
And then, they are looking at him and saying, I wish asikasirike.
I think the thing is not as Kasrike. It's not about Moses. It's about God. They want to see whether God has departed. He has threatened
whether he has forgiven them or not.
He has threatened them. He's
this
leaving.
is still a crisis moment.
And Moses has been the link. So they are monitoring Moses not because they think Moses is crazy, but to see is there anything God is doing.
But you know what he has done, Pastor, again? He boiled even that calf
has
and made
taken
them to
his
drink. And he has commanded, kill everyone.
That's right.
And
then they see him and pitching his tent.
He's left.
And walking away.
But I think in summary, we can appreciate and say, in fact, there was revival.
At this time.
At
this time.
Right. There was revival.
And at least I appreciate what happens next, because in 9, and it came to pass when Moses entered the tabernacle, that the pillar of cloud descended and stood at the door of the tabernacle, and the Lord talked with Moses. All the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the tabernacle door, and all the people rose and worshipped, each man in his tent door. So the Lord spoke to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to his friend, and he would return to the camp. But his servant Joshua, the son of Nun, a young man, did not depart from the tabernacle. Wow. So, at least now, you can now say,
Not yet. Still not yet.
Yeah, at least he has descended. At least I see the The Lord.
You
is
know
in-
why
in-
he is
His
coming. You
presence
don't
is
even
here.
know why he is coming.
But at least he's here. Man. You know, you need to appreciate that at least he's here. We don't know why he's here, but at least
Ooh.
his presence. God.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
no, God has not left them.
Yeah, no, but they haven't
only
seen
says,
him
I
over.
will.
And I think that's why I'm saying they were monitoring, not because of Moses, but to see whether is God still with us,
Still with us.
or not. Because the threat was not from Moses.
Mm.
Moses amemaliza what he has killed several here, he has done, but
Right.
God has said, "I'm not going with you," and he says, "This is bad news."
Yeah.
Ile ya Moses killing, it wasn't.
So the verdict is not out yet.
Yes.
Yeah, we
So
are
they
not
were
sure
waiting.
whether still.
Because he has said,
He has
"I
only
know
said,
what
I
to
will
do
in the
with you."
future.
Right.
Mhm.
But also, I thank God for Joshua. And now we know that Joshua Kid was a young man, was a young, this associate pastor was a young man.
Yeah.
It's a godly man, you know.
Pastor, let's first take a short break. Our dear viewer, we are taking a short break on this Laws episode. Yeah, things are not quite, you know, it's still a crisis moment here, and you can realize the same even on this set. We are still in a crisis moment, trying to understand and trying to fit ourselves in that situation. So you can imagine how the situation was like amongst the children of Israel. If you are this low, how about them? We are coming back shortly. Welcome back, our dear viewer. Welcome back to this show. We are glad that you are still with us. Of course, we are still in the book of Exodus, and the chapter is 33. Of course, after having gone through the experience of 32, the mood here is not really a nice mood. It's very low moment. And of course, with verse 11, before we took a short break, we said that the Lord came and talked with Moses face to face, and I know there would be a confusion here or some form of interpretation, and thinking that now the Lord came as a man to speak with this particular, this servant, Moses. And maybe it's important that we just clarify that, because although we already looked at that in the previous chapters, that there was no that direct face-to-face
Can't see God
communication.
and
But
yeah.
of course here it says again face-to-face. So how should we understand that, Pastor Dan?
Right here. So we do know that there is this request from Moses that is in the coming verses. There is the request that I want to see you. See, but God tells Moses that I will not show you, can't see my face, definitely, but I will show you my glory.
Maybe you should read verse 18, 19, 20.
Verse-
20.
All right. So
18, 19, 20 says, "And he said, please show me your glory. Then he said, I will make all my goodness pass before you, and I will proclaim the name of the Lord before you. I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. But he said, you cannot see my face,
right.
for no man shall see me and live."
yes. That is right here. And
So it wasn't...
it wasn't like the way we are seeing each other, but it means that they have got a one-on-one, a one-on-one interaction, conversation. As God comes and is veiled, you see the tent, the cloud that was seen in the tent.
Yeah,
actually, it
verse
was to
9 and
veil.
10.
It was meant to veil
The
the glory of God from having a direct contact with the people, because then they will die. If just the mere glory of God, because it comes in fire. You see now it comes before, and people run away terrified. So the cloud comes covering it, kinda, so that His presence is there, but not harming.
Maybe to add, we will see when the Bible says, so the Lord spoke to Moses face to face. So the Lord spoke. You know, like the rest of this conversation now takes that angle of a face to face. That is a one-on-one. So we, while we'll be discussing the hereafter, from verse 12 we see that Moses said to the Lord, then the Lord said to Moses, then Moses said to the Lord, then the Lord said to
dialogue.
It's they have a dialogue. You know, it's like two people, as we said. I don't want to dramatize now because it's a serious meeting here. But imagine Moses and God, who have not done any mistake, of course, and the young man Joshua are on the far end of the camp. They are talking, what do we do? How do we diffuse this tension? How do we solve this issue? So they are now, it's, let's say it's like a meeting, but per se it's not a meeting. It's them, it's the human side and the godly side wondering, how do we come to a consensus? Of course, it's God giving Moses a chance to express himself, because we know God is not caught by surprise anyway. But he's talking to Moses to try and rationalize for the sake of you and me in the world today, so that we may be able to understand it's also possible.
And
to
I
talk
think
with
this
God.
is where we again appreciate the angle Pastor was saying, the role of Moses as a type of Christ.
As a mediator.
Yeah, as a mediator, because now it's actually a meeting where they are talking and discussing what then do we do. Because you remember in verse, so that I may know what to do with you.
Verse 5.
That's verse 5. Yeah.
Verse 5, yeah, verse 5. Yeah, so that I may know what to do with you. Now, it's like they are discussing on what to do.
Yeah, they're still in limbo, because that is it. What is he going to do with us?
Yes.
That is what...
The question, remember, is I will not go with you.
All right, yes.
I see Trinity. I see Trinity at play. You see, from verse number 7, even let me explain. After what has happened from verse number 1, Moses decided to leave the camp and set up his own tent outside the camp. Then in verse number 7, he calls that tent the tabernacle of meeting. Then after that, whenever Moses gets into the tabernacle, then the cloud, the pillar, which was now representative of God, comes at the entrance of the tabernacle. Then Moses and God commune. But we know when we come to verse 11, okay? So the Lord spoke to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to Moses, to a friend, and who returned to camp. But his servant Joshua, the son of Nun, a young man, did not depart from the tabernacle. So it implies that whenever God came to commune with Moses at the entrance of the tabernacle, or with Joshua, was with Moses inside. So I see three. There's God, there's Moses, and there's Joshua. They are discussing, they are talking, concerning the issues of Israel. So that's something which comes out very well. But again, also to think so deeply and again to see and ask myself, why did Moses at this particular time decide to leave the camp? You know, that's very unique. It's not unique, it's actually weird for a leader. It's like me, you know, as a pastor, leaving my congregation and setting myself aside somewhere. And they say, you see, it says, whoever wants to know, let's come. And people are going actually there to that small tent of Moses, which now he called the tabernacle. You see, the tabernacle, the sanctuary, is not the size, is where God is. And if in the big camp of Israel, they have rejected God, they are meant for themselves a God. So Moses took a tent outside where God still would remain. And it's very dramatic, that we see actually God literally moving
With Moses.
to that small tent. Because God is not concerned with the size or the multitude, the numbers of people. He's concerned with the contents of the hearts. He stays where a heart loves him.
And I think he had said, of course, if I would come amidst you, I would consume you. And, you know, everything working from the symbolic aspect, he has to kind of be that outside, because
Moses doesn't want also his people to be consumed.
Yeah, to be consumed.
He's
So
still fighting.
he's kind of just trying to see
Protect
how they
his
can't
people.
be. Yeah.
But also the last point I wanted to bring out is that, you know, before we went out for break, we spoke about reformation. There was revival because of that incident. And you know, revival takes time. There's a trigger of revival every time. There's something that triggers revival. And then it lasts for some time. So the isolation that Moses has made was to, remember in the previous few verses here, he's saying, those who are on the side of the Lord, come. You know, there are times when God requires people to stand.
Take sides.
And take sides. And so it continued that. So that the confession of sins, the turning away from their sin, would be manifest by those who will identify with the tabernacle, which Moses has designated as tabernacle, so that people can continue repenting and being revived before the journey starts.
And talking about revival, you know, in verse 10, the last part, and after, of course, they saw the pillar of cloud standing at the tabernacle door, all the people rose and worshipped, each man at his tent door. You know, we really have to appreciate that there is this kind of realization that we have been taking all this time, we have been taking God for granted. And after what has happened, people have sobered up and they realize we really need to worship this God. And when they see that pillar, the hope is revived and everybody falls down to worship the Lord. I think it was an important.
Yeah, but you see, they also fear to go to that tabernacle.
Yeah, you can.
They're standing there. You know, don't joke with God. You know, I've seen people treating God with contempt. I've seen people in churches behaving as though God is so weak. But I have monitored through the scriptures. Anytime people get so, they pushes God to a corner, God will always visit, and people's lives will be lost. You check through the scriptures. Even when those children laughed at the man of God because of
the baldy head.
Yes, I mean, there are some things you don't do with God. I'm telling you, you do anything you want to do, but don't cross the boundary. Because once you crosses the boundary, then God comes in so mercilessly. And you know, these people, they are so not terrified. One of the things actually I think they're standing at the entrance of their tents, not coming out, going where Moses is fear. Remember, 3,000 already are dead. They have witnessed just a few hours ago. They have witnessed. And God is so mad. Moses is so mad. It's a moment of solemnness for people to search their hearts.
Yeah.
And I also want to add, you know, somebody would say, this old man is throwing tantrums. As you see him picking his tent, leaving the camp. He's not talking to anybody. He's just quiet, still angry. But really, you realize now the character of Moses is actually kind of consistent. Because he's doing this to protect his people. Because if the presence of God remains in their midst, before this crisis is solved, they will be consumed. There will be further destruction. But then there's also another angle I'd also add on top of this. There are moments in the ministry of a leader when you need time out. Because it is either, if you don't take time out, either you will burn out or fall out.
Or you'll cause disaster. Or what
Exactly. Or you just make decisions. Moses isolating himself from the people, it affords him some sober moments to reflect, to talk with God, to plead with. He's looking for a solution. He's trying to convince God. God has told him, okay, you guys, you know what, go. Anyway, I'll make sure you're comfortable. Just don't count
make sure
me
you
in.
arrive safely.
Yeah, but I'm not boarding that train. You will go. You are guaranteed of the things you seem to be pricing so much.
Yes.
But don't count me in. And Moses knows that this is not right. Sometimes we need you know, even as pastors, you know, tell the elders that, okay, you know what, guys, I need a retreat. I just need time out. I need to go. I need to pray. I need to talk with my God. I need to have moments. Even in families, sometimes, especially the sisters, you know, if the man is maybe so mad, he just goes, he's silent in his study. Sometimes give him time, because you never know, you know, he just needs that time off. And finally, you know, a lot of the time we take things for granted until when we're about to lose them. So this shows that some of us worship. I talk to my college students who my pastor, you are always missing out on Vespers and that singing. Wait until you are posted to somewhere.
A far-flung area.
And you are alone. You don't have people to fellowship with. You start missing now. That's Friday Vespers.
And of course, as now we come to the tail end of this, verse 12. Now, of course, we've read some verses after this, but 12, Moses now, in that communication, that meeting, Moses said to the Lord, see, you say to me, bring up these people, but you have not let me know who you will send me with me. Yet you have said, I know you by name, and you have also found grace in my sight. Now therefore I pray, if I have found grace in your sight, show me now your way, that I may know you, and that I may find grace in your sight, and consider that this nation is your people.
Wow.
And he said, my presence will go with you,
Amen.
and I'll give you rest.
Amen. We thank God.
Right.
Yes.
This is quite good, especially for this leader. You know, at this point, you know, you are standing in the gap.
I'm telling you.
It's only
I'm telling
between you. It's like, I'm just trying to imagine if Moses would tell God, now, no, I think
Hata mimi nimechoka.
nimechoka, just
Right.
destroy them. And, you know, he's just there trying to look for a solution.
That's right.
And then he says, now, I really want to see you. I really want to know who you are, so that if you have found grace in your sight, let me see you and know your way. But the Lord says, I will be with you. My presence will go with you, and I'll give you rest.
I think everybody has come down finally. You know, everybody was so high here.
Yeah, the
And
temperature was so high.
actions, and when you look at this conversation, if you can have it in your mind, you'll see that the tone is different.
Right.
There are no many exclamations. It's a real face-to-face talk. You know, like it's a discussion, not for distraction, but a discussion for building each other up. And so Moses tells God, you know, you've said to me in Exodus 3:10, when you are calling me, you said I'm good. I have found favor before you. Just before in 32 verse 34, you also said, I have done something nice. I have led these people. Now, Lord, let's put all that together.
All right.
How truthful will it be for you to say that, yet you're not with me, yet you're not with these people? It's not that God had forgotten. No. The whole idea is not God has forgotten. Is Moses pleading on behalf of human beings, let me say these human beings for the time being, who have now realized that it's a bad thing that they were asking for. Of course, we will see them complaining later in the general nature of man.
They just don't understand.
They just
what
don't
has
the
gone.
gravity of this
That's right.
situation. For them, it was a moment of self-preservation. Can I say like that? You know, many of us at that point, I have seen people swearing when they are pushed to a corner. As Pastor Aaron was saying, you know, you get pushed to a corner and you repent so well until people are, this is the same guy. And then after things have cooled down, but then I like how God knows. Did God know that they will do the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. But what does he say?
foresaw
My
that
presence will go with you. Because he's promising he's promising not today. He's not promising about yesterday. He's promising for the rest of their lives, for the entirety of their journey. He's not promising for today. That's what I wanted to be able to appreciate, even as he says, my presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. I wish we'll discuss about rest, but let me just finish up with this one first.
Let me also read these ones now so that we can conclude on the same, so that at least get your comments here. 15, then he said to him, if your presence does not go with us, do not bring us up from here. For how then will it be known that your people and I have found grace in your sight, except you go with us? So we shall be separate, your people and I, from all the people who are upon the face of the earth. You know, it's still from that point where God said, I will send my angel to go before you. And it's not me now to accompany me. And Moses is still pleading for God to remain and go with them. If you don't do that, please, let's just remain here. Don't
So
bring
verse
us
17,
out from
verse
here.
17
and
says,
so the Lord said to Moses, I'll also do this thing that you have spoken, for you have found grace in my sight, and I know you by name.
By name.
I wanted to come in, Ratemo. Of course, these are low moments for any pastor in a congregation. You know, when your members have indulged into idolatry, every kind of a sin, wicked rebellion, the pastor is a most stressed person. And you see a very stressed Moses, very, very stressed. He was not stressed when he was in Egypt, despite the plagues.
Mm.
He was not stressed at the crossing of the Red Sea, despite of, the no options that he had. He was not stressed, the murmurings that they had. But here he's very, very stressed. He's down to the lowest. And I think to encourage the men of God out there who are serving, taking care of congregations, that when you feel yourself low because of what members are doing, just know God is with you.
Amen.
I appreciate the fact that even when Moses isolated himself, God literally came to the camp of Moses.
Mm.
To me, this is very, very encouraging. That he would leave the entire congregation, God, leaving the entire camp of Israel, but come to the little house of Moses.
Mm. Mm.
I think to every pastor, when those moments come, be assured of the presence of God.
And as a pastor, you need to also plead to God on behalf of the people, like Moses did. He pleads with God until verse 17. He had said, I'll send my angel. In 17, until finally God agrees to it and
That's the
says,
second point
I
I was
will
coming at.
Also do what you have asked. I'll go with you.
That's the second point I was coming at. So, and those moments those moments of being very low as a pastor, because of the rebellion of the members, don't curse members. I think Moses is setting us a very good example. Agonize with God, plead with God concerning the sin of your members, and God is going to listen to you.
Wow. Pastor Dan, if you can just throw in a statement as then we wind up.
Right. This low moment culminates also in one of the highest points of Moses' ministry, when the Lord shows him his glory. It was a glorious moment. So, every trial comes packaged with grace and victory, because out of this moment, eventually, Moses is able to see the glory, the true God in his glory, in his graciousness, in his long-bearing, mercy and grace, like he had never seen before.
Well, I almost forgot that part, Pastor Kabira. Can you do it in 20 seconds?
What part?
Which part?
Where
The
now
glory of God.
the glory of God, because he has to see God himself, and God says, I'll hide you in a cave.
Cleft of the rock.
From
Yeah.
verse 19.
I thought we discussed about it when we were beginning. He said, I just need some little glory as proof of that. What, of course, does God do? He gives him a little snippet of that. He says, I'll be gracious to whom I'll be gracious, and I'll have compassion on whom I'll have compassion. That is his own glory, in a way, being able to be extended. So it says in verse 22, so it shall be, while my glory passes, that I'll put you in the cleft of the rock, and I'll cover you with my hand while I'll pass by. Then I'll take away my hand, and you'll see my back, my face shall not be seen. He fulfills that promise, because he has made a pact with Moses. So he fulfills that promise by just portraying a little bit of his glory so that Moses will get. My final word will be, the people learned, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added.
Wow, thank you very much. I really appreciate your, of course, company and your comments on the same chapter. And of course, for our viewers, thank you very much for being with us on this study today. And I hope that you've learned much. It's time for revival to the children of Israel, which should be a revival for us also. And having taken out all these necklaces, bangles, gold, and all those things, so that the Lord may know what to do with us, so that at least he may hold a meeting with us and talk with us and assure us of his presence. Thank you very much for being with us. See you next time.
Hallelujah, He is
Risen,
risen.
the Lord has risen.
He has risen.
Risen from the dead, a sign of victory.
He ascended back to
Heaven,
the scripture.
the scripture said it all.
In a matter
of time, He'll take us home.
hallelujah, hallelujah, He is
Risen,
risen.
the Lord has risen.
He has risen.
Risen from the dead, a sign of victory.
He ascended back to
Heaven,
the scripture.
the scripture said it all.
In a matter
of time, He'll take us home. Sing hallelujah, hallelujah, praising the mighty Father. In a white robe, golden slippers, we shall exalt Thee. Worthy, oh, worthy, oh, worthy, oh Lord, You are worthy of all praises. Sing hallelujah, hallelujah, praising the mighty Father. In a white robe, golden slippers, we shall exalt Thee. Worthy, oh, worthy, oh, worthy, oh Lord, You are worthy of all praises.
hallelujah, we shall
Rejoice,
rejoice,
rejoice in the Lord,
singing,
singing a song of victory.
He shall wipe away all
Artists
in the Lord,
will be lights,
with a star,
the stars from the crown we shall rejoice.
hallelujah, hallelujah, we shall
Rejoice,
rejoice,
rejoice in the Lord,
singing,
singing a song of victory.
He shall wipe away all
Artists
in the Lord,
will be lights,
with a star, the crown we shall rejoice.
hallelujah, praising the mighty Father. In a white robe, golden slippers, we shall exalt Thee. Worthy, oh, worthy, oh, worthy, oh Lord, You are worthy of all praises. Sing hallelujah, hallelujah, praising the mighty Father. In a white robe, golden slippers, we shall exalt Thee. Worthy, oh, worthy, oh, worthy, oh Lord, You are worthy of all praises. Sing hallelujah, hallelujah, praising the mighty Father. In a white robe, golden slippers, we shall exalt Thee. Worthy, oh, worthy, oh, worthy, oh Lord, You are worthy of all praises. Sing hallelujah, hallelujah, praising the mighty Father. In a white robe, golden slippers, we shall exalt Thee. Worthy, oh, worthy, oh, worthy, oh Lord, You are worthy of all praises. wakuitao